welcome back to the channel, and today I'm really excited to bring you my top 10 books of 2023 because this was a fantastic reading year for me. I read 57 books this year, slightly different to what my Goodreads says. I don't know why Goodreads doesn't quite match my list, my document, but 57 books, and they were very, very high quality. This is the best reading year for me in number of books and in the quality of those books. I believe I averaged a 3.9 stars out of 5 for my reading this year. I'm hoping to get that even higher next year because I like to really focus on only the essential reads for me next year. But it's a fantastic list of books, and I feel quite sorry for the books that didn't quite make the top 10 this year, because I think something like 17 books from this year could have made the top 10 from last year, because it was such a fantastic year this year. And I know that a lot of my content is fantasy, and I have a lot of fantasy viewers. So I have 4 recommendations before I go into my top 10 of books that were vying for places in my top 10. Didn't quite make it, but they all scored above 4.5 stars. And the first of those high recommendations is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. It was a hard push between this and book 3 of this trilogy, but I really feel like it's so new. The ideas are so new in The Final Empire, and I feel like the execution is so effective in the first book, to the point where it almost does a discredit to the next 2 books in the series. But yeah, definitely I would recommend it. Anyone that hasn't read Mistborn, book 1, The Final Empire, is definitely worth checking out. The next of my recommendations will actually be Ship of Magic. Again, a first book in a trilogy. Who knew I needed pirate fiction so much in my life? Ship of Magic delivers a fantastic slice of life, and also some decent action as well. And definitely, Robin Hobb definitely stepped up for me this year. The third of my recommendations will be Ruin. This is a lot of people's favourite book in the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. It is book 3, and it is probably delivered the most action this year in a single novel. Ruin is a real thrill ride, and definitely a recommended read. Didn't quite make the top 10 though. And finally, this book, you can consider this my book 11 for the year. This is a book that surprised me, from a very solid fantasy trilogy that ended up delivering themes and depth that I wasn't expecting, and that's Return to Adan. Return to Adan is almost worth just reading the Adan trilogy just so you can get to this book, really. Fantastic way to end a trilogy, and a very unexpected surprise for me this year. So you're probably wondering, how could these books not make the top 10? They're all fantastic books. They're all like 5-star reads on other people's channels. I had a crazy year of reading this year, and so let's not beat around the bush. Let's start with our number 10. That is Dracula by Bram Stoker, a book that could have been vying for the very top 3 places if it had been based on the first half of the book alone. This might be my favourite first half of a book this year. Dracula is fantastic. It's unlike anything else you see on this list. Do yourself a favour, if you've got a hole in your TBR come say October next year in 2024, add Dracula, because you won't be disappointed. Right, next up at number 9 is the funniest book I read this year, and that would be Guards by Terry Pratchett. I've been told this is one of the best Discworld books, but I wasn't really expecting amazing things. I enjoyed The Hogfather, but Guards was like a notch up, really. Very, very funny, great characters. Guards is my number 9. Right, my number 8 is Wrath. The Faithful and the Fallen, great series, very, very consistent. 3 of the 4 books I rate extremely highly, and Wrath might just be the best. It might just be the best in the series. It's very hard to pick between them, but Wrath, yeah, snuck in at number 8 this year. At number 7, kind of neck and neck with Wrath, really, is the final book in the First Law. This is The Last Argument of Kings. Fantastic end to a fantastic series. Another very, very consistent series. Faithful and the Fallen and First Law. If you like 4.5-star reads, these will deliver plenty of those to you. And The Last Argument of Kings comes in at number 7. And number 6 is one of the most challenging reads of the year for me. A book that took me places in my head and in my emotions, and that is The Brothers Karamazov. This, I wouldn't say, is a instant recommend to everyone, but if you are into books of great depth and theme and theology, I think you probably won't go wrong with A Brothers Karamazov in at number 6. Into the top 5 and back again It's Robin Hobb, Ship of Destiny. I didn't think there was any more kind of tricks that Hobb could pull out of the bag to make this trilogy any better. I thought Mad Ship took a bit of a dive from Ship of Magic, but Ship of Destiny proved me wrong. It really wrapped up the series really well, but more importantly, it delivered those full character arcs I was really hoping for. All came together in Ship of Destiny. It's a long read, but it's worth it. It's my number 5. Right, my top 4. These 4 books stand head and shoulders above everything I read this year. That's no disservice to the books I've already read, but these 4, they could be book of the year in anyone's list on anyone's year, really. And number 4 is Shogun by James Clavell. Now, Shogun blew me away. I read it very early in the year, and I didn't see how any book could be as good as this. I love the characters, I love the plotting, I love the setting, I love the prose. There's not anything I can really say that I didn't enjoy about Shogun. It's just that so happened 3 better books came along, and it took me by surprise. At number 3, I did not see this coming at all, but I loved The Stand. The Stand is very difficult for me to put on exactly why this book is so great. Yes, the characters are fantastic, but then how many of them actually stood out in my end of year characters list? The plotting's great, but does it stand up to some of these kind of historical political thrillers? The setting is very vividly realised, and I felt myself placed within the novel for huge lengths of time, and I think that's really what got me over it, got me over the edge in the end, is that I felt like I was feeling and living everything in the novel. It's a very long novel. It's a novel that spoke to me. The Stand really took me by surprise. Stephen King is constantly going up in my estimation as a writer. He's throwing punches with the very best, and I was really surprised by The Stand this year. At number 2, another massive surprise. Someone should have warned me, someone should have told me and explained to me that Taipan was going to be better than Shogun, because I didn't see it coming. But somehow the plotting is better. Somehow the characters are more relatable. Somehow the setting is kind of on a par. Maybe Shogun's setting was slightly better, but Taipan just felt like a better written novel. It felt tighter. It felt like the prose flowed better. It felt like the characters really were standing out more. I can't really fault Taipan. It has just about everything you'd want. It has drama, it has intrigue, and it has action. It is very well paced and plotted. Taipan was an exceptional read, and only one book could have displaced this year. That brings me to my number 1, head and shoulders above everything else. I was shocked that this book wasn't overrated. I assumed this book must be overhyped. Dune by Frank Herbert. There is no hype here. This is the genuine article. This is an exceptional piece of literature. Very underrated even. Which is a crazy thing to say because everyone knows Dune. It gets talked about by everyone as kind of the pinnacle of science fiction. This is single-handedly making me want to read more science fiction. This subverted my expectations massively. A book of immense quality, and I could tell it was going to be a book of immense quality very quickly. Within several pages, I was just drawn in, and I was on the edge of my seat, and it never let go. Dune by Frank Herbert is my book of the year. Please share with me what your books of the year was. We all need help with our TBR. Well, actually, it's probably a lie. We probably don't need more books in our TBR, but put them down in the descriptions anyway. Let's get a conversation going.